Today, we're going to take a page from the Danish playbook on parenting. As you may know, the Danes have consistently ranked as the happiest people in the world, and in this video, we'll break down the 6 principles they live by on how to raise confident, happy, and resilient kids. The book we'll be reviewing today will be The Danish Way of Parenting by Jessica Joelle Alexander and Iben Sandahl. So let's dive in. The 6 principles take on an acronym. Try to guess it as we go along. Game too hard? I'll give you the answer in the end. First, let's start with P, which stands for play. Here's an interesting fact. Legos come from Denmark. Did you know that? They were created by a Danish carpenter named Ole Kirk Christensen in his workshop in 1932. And the word Lego comes from the words legat, which means play well. Also, one of the world's biggest suppliers of outdoor playgrounds is a Danish company called Iben. What the authors are trying to show here is that although Denmark is a country of only 5 million people, it's the world leader in both indoor and outdoor play supplies. These people are serious about play. Why? Well, play is the way children learn about stress, self-control, and how to negotiate. Some tips for play is that you turn off the TV and electronics. That means bye-bye iPad and Nintendo Switch. Instead, give your kids art supplies and let them create spontaneously. Get them outside as much as possible to play in the woods, at the park, or at the beach. Also, mix children of different ages so that kids get to learn from each other at different levels. One suggestion on play that I like doing is playing with my kids, letting them be my guides. We make up games like City, where each person has a different role, like policeman, banker, and tattoo artist. We pretend Pokemon cards are real money and we try to earn the most money possible. Inevitably, it's the tattoo artist, which is my son Parker, that wins the game because Parker is good at convincing Logan and me that we need his Crayola marker tattoos. Don't worry, they wash off easily. So, moving on to A, which stands for authenticity. Parenting with authenticity means showing kids emotional honesty, not perfection. If you're going through a difficult time, it's better not to fake it and smile, saying everything is going to be okay when it's not. Showing your vulnerabilities requires courage and strength, and your children remember that when they grow into adults. One thing I've learned recently that the book addresses is to not push your dreams onto your kid, but rather listen carefully to their desires and respect their own pace of growth and development. 3 years ago, when Logan was 5, we tried to put him into soccer, and that was a disaster. He picked up that ball, everyone yelled, and he ran off that field. But now, at age 8, he's the one driving the bus, telling us how much he loves to play soccer. Parker tried piano lessons for a month, and then he decided to give it up. Being raised by a tiger mom, I wanted to force him to practice and play, but I had to think, to what end? So that he grows up hating music? He may come back to it maybe in a year or 2. One tip for living with greater authenticity that I like is to use examples from your own childhood. Kids love to hear what you were like when you were little. You can tell them how you were raised and how you're trying to raise your kids differently or maybe the same, particularly if you had a hard childhood. That makes for good stories. That's them right here. I like the idea of teaching kids to be the best version of themselves and to not compare themselves to others. Easier said than done, right? This is one of those lessons I wish I had known decades earlier. Moving on to R, which stands for reframing. What the heck does that mean? If you want to raise resilient kids, you must teach them to be master reframers or realistic optimists. Realistic optimists filter out unnecessary negative information, developing a habit of interpreting ambiguous situations in a more positive manner. Okay, still, what does that mean? For example, when the apple pie comes out soggy, say, now everyone get a spoon. Or when the soccer game gets rained out, say, it's family monopoly time. There is no denying that kids will be hit with negative situations in their lives. Wish we could all save them, right? The key element in being resilient will be their ability to reframe negative situations. In a Harvard Business Review article, it says, quote, more than education, more than experience, more than training, a person's level of resilience will determine who succeeds and who fails. That's true in the cancer ward, it's true in the Olympics, and it's true in the boardroom, unquote. That's a crazy quote. So, how can we teach this life-changing skill to our kids? We shift focus from what she thinks she can't do to what she can do. The adult helps the kids see situations from different angles. When your child uses limiting language like, I hate this, or I can't do it, or I'm not good at it, she's creating a negative storyline. As parents, we probably said things like, oh, he's just not that good at that sport, or she's too sensitive. The more children hear these kinds of statements, the more negative conclusions they make about themselves. They may even internalize these statements, believing that that's how they are. Pretty sad. So what's a parent to do? The key is to separate the person from the problem, to stop using labels, and to find a different storyline about your kid's life. What about how creative your child is, or how they play so well with others? Instead of focusing on negative identity conclusions of being lazy or scatterbrained, focus on the values and skills you want to thicken in your child's narrative. Basically, reframing isn't about eliminating negative events in our lives. It's about placing less importance on them and focusing more on aspects we like. In essence, try this. Focus on the positive side of your child's behavior so they feel appreciated for their uniqueness. So next time you want to say, he's such a picky eater, or he hates reading, I've done that, or he never listens, we need to stop ourselves and separate the behavior from the child, which changes how we see him and how he sees himself. If you take nothing from this video, take this one tip. Stop the labels, because they become self-fulfilling prophecies. Notice instead their persistence and decisiveness doesn't mean they're stubborn. Hey, maybe it means they're going to become great leaders. Here's what the Danes do. Instead of saying limiting language that tells kids how they are, or what they should do, or how they should feel, they don't say things like, don't cry, or you should be happy. They focus more on supporting language, focusing more on how to help a child become aware of why they're feeling that way. They'll ask questions like, what's wrong? Or what's going on? And why do you feel sad? They take the time to break down the conversation, helping kids talk about their feelings, guiding them in a constructive way. Helping kids find the brighter side of things is great, but leading kids to find their own solution helps build their self-esteem, because he isn't told how to feel and act. One time, Sam accidentally launched a huge snowball at Logan, my 8-year-old. Logan was struck and angry, and he threw a snowball right at Sam's neck. Instead of saying, that's mean, or throwing a snowball back at Logan, Sam calmly asked Logan, why did you throw that snowball? And got Logan to admit that he acted out of anger. Sam explained that the first snowball he threw at Logan was an accident, and that the whole situation was put to rest. I was super impressed with how Sam handled that sticky situation, and I told him that he had mad dad Jedi skills. Now we come to E, which stands for empathy. Empathy is a word that gets used a lot, but what exactly does it mean? It's the ability to recognize and understand the feelings of others. It's feeling what someone else might feel, not just feeling for them, but feeling with them. Okay, parents, this is one of those traits that is best bestowed on our kids by example. Empathy starts with you. Yes, I said you. We must practice being empathetic because children will mirror us. Danes will often talk about other kids in front of their own kids. For instance, they'll say something like, she's very kind, don't you think? Or, that was really helpful of him. Didn't you think so? This lays the groundwork for seeing the good in other people. Also, when a child is grumpy or mean, they try to explain this behavior, wondering why they acted in an unpleasant way. Rather than labeling a child as mean or selfish, they'll say out loud to their kid things like, she was probably tired and missed her nap, or, do you think he was hungry? You know how grumpy we can be when we're hungry? Heck, I have been hangry a lot of times. Now we go to N, which stands for no ultimatums. Ready for a shocking statistic? Some studies suggest that up to 90% of Americans still use spanking as a form of discipline for their children. Gasp! This can best be explained by copying what we went through in our own upbringing, but is it necessary? Who remembers fly swatter? In Denmark, spanking became illegal in 1997, and Danes think it's almost unthinkable to use spanking as a form of discipline. They believe in firmness and kindness instead of losing your temper and giving ultimatums. As most parents simply repeat their own patterns, you are making the harder but better choice by making a change. It's important to remember that kids are inherently good. They are supposed to try and push boundaries and to test the rules. They're not being manipulative. That's just how they grow. Finally, we come to T, which stands for togetherness, and hygge. Denmark is known for hygge, which literally means to cozying around together. It's a way of life for them. Cozying around means busting out the candles, playing games, eating nice meals, having cake and tea, and generally hanging around each other in a comfortable setting. Research has shown that one of the top predictors of well-being and happiness is quality time with your friends and your family. So, make it a point to set aside your worries of your day and spend some quality time with the people that you love. Going back to modeling resilience for your children. Our social support helps us manage the stress, so we should lean on people during our difficult times and be vulnerable. Our kids will see this and understand that relationships are important. When it comes to togetherness, spend time with your family playing games inside or outside. We like to play baseball or tennis or try out a new version of Monopoly. Hope you found some useful parenting tips today. Did you guess the acronym was PARENT? If you'd like to learn more about hygge, check out my other video with hint hygge in the title. Thank you and so long!